Hello and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman. Welcome to week number 37 of my 52-week series of Scrappy blocks. This block for this week is called Attic Windows. It's a great Scrappy block, very easy to put together. It's basically squares with a couple of half square triangles in it. I'm going to show you how to make this, but first I want to show you the two different quilts that you can create using this block. Every spring and fall, I like to do mystery quilt classes via Zoom with students around the world, and we have fun using our scrap stash to create some beautiful quilts. In the spring of 2020, I designed two different quilts that they're still available actually out on my website, and I'm going to give you links to those. The one here on the wall I created, and it's called Spinning Attic Windows. It is using this block, and the other quilt hanging on the wall here is also using this block, but the block is oriented differently within the quilt itself. You'll see this is in a rows and these are in little squares. I love working with block patterns that allow you to create two different designs. You can really have fun then with your quilt. So I've got two different quilt patterns that you can create from this very same block, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. I'll take you to the sewing machine and I'll show you how we're going to put this together. I'm also going to make sure that the links are below to those two quilts so that you can go out to my website and you can find the patterns, the templates, and so forth. Whenever I do mystery quilts, I also like to teach a pieced border, and so both of these do have pieced borders. The one hanging on the wall here, the red, white, and blue one, has some half diamond borders that I have pieced, and the templates are out on my website. You'll have links to that. This one right here is the Shades of Spring, and it's in rows, but the border itself is a pieced X's border, and I've got the templates out on my website so that you can pull down the PDFs for all of that. So you'll have everything you need to create these two quilts. And you can make them as large as you want just by simply making more blocks for each one. So now let's go to the sewing machine and see how to put this together. So there is a PDF that I've got linked below in the description box, and this is the instructions which will show you how to make the block, and this is a layout of the block. You're simply going to need some light, medium, and dark fabrics. You're going to need two 4.5-inch squares that are light, one 5-inch square that's light, which we'll be using for a half square triangle. Mediums, you're going to need three 4.5-inch squares and one 5-inch square, which you'll be using for a half square triangle. And then you're going to need in darks two 4.5-inch squares and one 5-inch square, which again we'll be using for a half square triangle. So the half square triangles are these two blocks right here. So it's a light medium and a medium dark that we're going to be creating, and we're going to create those half square triangles the same way that we've created them in all of my Speedy Solutions techniques. I've taught you that over and over. I have laid out the block right here. So this is how we're going to web it together in just a moment. I will take a medium and a dark square, a 5-inch square, and I'm going to walk you through the half square triangle process that I use to create my half square triangles. Here is my medium 5-inch square and my dark 5-inch square. To make a half square triangle, you take those two units and put them right sides together. So you're going to take a light and a dark and place them together just like this. Draw a diagonal line from corner to corner, and then we're going to sew a scant 1/4 inch on both sides of that drawn line. I've sewn a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides of the drawn line. You can see it maybe a little bit better on this side. Now what I'm going to do is cut it on the drawn line, and you can do this with a rotary cutter and mat. I'm just going to use the scissors here. What I do like to do, and I should have done it before I cut them apart, I do like to cut from stitching line to stitching line. Just gets rid of the dog ear. And I forgot to do that before I cut it apart, but that is what I typically like to do, just to get rid of some excess fabric. Then we're going to open it, press it to the dark, and then it's imperative that we square these both up to 4.5 inches. Each of these half square triangle units must be 4.5 inches. For one block, we're only going to need one of these. You'll be able to use the second one for another block. And the same holds true with the light medium that you'll be putting together. You'll use one of them in a block, and the second one can be used in another block. So let's go. I'm going to press these, and then I'm going to square them up. I'll be right back. To square up the half square triangle units, I'm simply using an OmniGrid ruler. You might have a square up ruler that is a favorite of yours that you like to use, but if you don't have a special ruler like that, you can certainly use square rulers as long as they have the 45-degree marked line there on the diagonal. That's what you use to line up on the square itself. You line it up to the seam allowance. And then you find the size that you're needing to trim this to, and this is 4.5 inches, so I've made sure the bottom two, this side and the bottom line here of the fabric are on that 4.5 inch line. And then I just simply trim away the excess here. There isn't much that has to be trimmed away, but it's very important that this does get trimmed away because each and every block must be 4.5 inches. If you try to put together the block and you're not trimming this away, you're going to have a headache trying to put the block together. It really will not go together well, and you'll be very frustrated. So make sure whenever you do half square triangles that you trim up each and every half square triangle to the measurement that the pattern calls for. The block is laid out here to the left of my sewing machine, and I'm going to web it together. You'll see there are 4.5 inch squares. There are actually a total of 7 4.5 inch squares, and then there are 2 half square triangles that we're using per block, the light and medium and the medium dark half square triangle. Be sure when you lay the block out to sew it together that you orient these half square triangle units in the proper direction. So make sure that this one is going like this and this one is going like that. Take a peek at the picture or the drawing within the pattern itself and just make sure that every one is sewn like that. When I web my blocks, I like to start up in this corner here. I'm going to flip this square on top of that one. I'm going to bring it up to the sewing machine, sew down a scant 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to pick these up and do the same, and these, and I'll do the same, and there will be a thread connecting these 2 rows here, and that's why I call it webbing. There's a thread that sort of webs it all together. Then I'll come back and grab this last row and web it. Then I'll have all 9 squares webbed together this direction, and then I can simply flip them together and sew the rows together. I'll do this in fast motion for you. You'll see here that I have 4 of these blocks ready to go. I have not yet squared them up to 12.5 inches. You do need to do that. Make sure you square each of them up to 12.5 inches. But I wanted to lay them out so that you could see the different arrangements that are possible with this block. This is, I've arranged this so that the darks are all coming together in the center corner here, and that's creating the spinning attic windows block, which you'll see right here. I've got all 4 of them. This is on the back of your PDF. Make sure you pull that down and save that. So that's the spinning attic windows arrangement. There's 4 blocks put together like that with all of the darks together. You could, I suppose if you wanted to, you could completely swap this around so that the lights all come together in the center. There you go. So however you'd like to do that, there's different ways to arrange that. So that is the spinning attic windows arrangement. Now, let's take a look at this arrangement. This is the Shades of Spring arrangement where they're in diagonal rows. So what we simply did here on this one, we're going to move it in that direction. This one, it's going to be right there. This one down here. Like that, and this one will go like this. So as you take a look at this, you'll see that the darks are in this area right here and again here. So they're creating rows of the color, the value, if you will. There's rows of the lights, the mediums, and the darks. Creates a beautiful design. This arrangement of the 4 blocks is the Shades of Spring arrangement. These 4 blocks is the arrangement of the spinning attic windows. This particular quilt, I have added sashing in there. You don't have to add the sashing, but there is sashing in there as well. Don't forget to download or save the PDF that's attached in the description box below. This is the instructions and what you need for each block for this quilt. And on the back, of course, is the sample of a quilt that you can certainly use if you'd like to. I'm also going to link in the description box below the patterns and where you can locate those out on my website. And these are mystery quilt patterns from the spring of 2020. They are free patterns. Everything you need is out on my website, so you can grab that. This one is the Shades of Spring, and I wanted to make sure you're able to see the border itself here. Trying to make sure that shows up for you. So that is the X's border, and there are templates in the PDF that's included in the mystery quilt pattern, so you can use that. And you can see here how the lights are showing up in rows, and in this case I used floral scraps that I had. So I have blues, purples, greens, and pink colors as the mediums or the darks when I put the block together. Very fun one to use and create some beautiful quilts using your scrap stash. That's the whole purpose of these videos. If you have not yet watched my video tutorial on how to get your scrap stash cut, sorted, organized, and ready to use to make beautiful quilts, I'm linking below that video so that you can watch that. It will tell you everything that you need to know. I also have a corresponding book. This is the techniques book. This is the pattern book. In here there are 12 additional patterns, including the 5 in this one. And they use the techniques that I teach in this book so that you're able to take your scrap stash, your remnants, and cut them up and have them ready to go so that you can actually use them and make beautiful quilts. So I shared with you the Shades of Spring layout. That's the design that's in diagonal rows. This one is the spinning attic windows, and I love hanging this during the Memorial Day, July 4th. There's so many different holidays that I can hang this up on my porch. It's just a beautiful red, white, and blue quilt that I can hang out, and it's made using scraps, the creams and the lights and the reds and the blues from my stash. I love to be able to use my scrap stash to make beautiful quilts. I hope you enjoyed today's block, the spinning attic windows, which is right here, attic windows block. Very simple one to make. Hopefully you'll all make that. I'd love to see pictures of your blocks, of your quilts, any projects you're working on. Please go out to my Facebook page, Quilting with Lori, and find my Scrap Up Your Stash. I'll put the links below as well. And post pictures of things that you're working on. I'd love to see those. It's always an inspiration for quilters to share with others what we're working on. So I hope that you'll do that. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I hope that you'll hit like and subscribe and hit the notification button as well so that you'll get notified each time I put up a tutorial. And until next time, happy quilting.